Ray Leary, a passionate community leader and advocate, from his humble beginnings to his remarkable achievements. Leary's journey is a testament to the power of resilience. We follow his path from Jefferson High School basketball to his professional accomplishments with Adidas and the founding of Self Enhancement, Inc. Leary shares his experiences of overcoming significant obstacles and his relentless pursuit of community empowerment.
I appreciate the question, and it gives me a bit of pause because the story is still evolving. But the genesis of it began with two 15-year-old parents coming out of their freshman year at Jefferson High School. And that summer, I was conceived. Now, at the time, a very interesting fact, at the time, my father was known as Ellis Ray Anderson because he was adopted by my ex-granddad, Lonnie Anderson. So he went through Boise and Jefferson as Ray Anderson. We heard stories about Ray Anderson later on down the line. But 3 months before I was born, he met his father for the first time at 16 and found out his real name was Leary. Came back and changed his name. I was 3 months removed from being Ellis Ray Anderson and took on his true real name. And that's when it all began. Because as you can imagine, two 16-year-olds with a child, that's not a winning formula. Especially not when the next child is coming right behind. And the next child is coming right behind. And the story I heard about Ray Anderson at a reunion of ex-athletes from Jefferson was that while he was at Jefferson, he was a tremendous athlete. And he was competing for quarterback on the eventual state championship team. He was competing against a guy by the name of Terry Baker, who ultimately won the Heisman Trophy as a quarterback at Oregon State, first round draft choice with the Rams. And this guy who was on that team was sitting at the table with us, and he couldn't think of the guy's name. Who was that guy? Who was that guy that had Baker on the ropes? Who was that guy? And Nate Jones, former principal at Jefferson, and my father's best friend in grade school in Boise, he just started laughing. Because the white guy said, I don't know what the problem was, but he just kept having babies. He just kept having babies and babies and babies. And Nate looked at me and started laughing and pointed at me and asked me, tell him your name. And I said, Ray Leary. He said, that was his name. That was his name. And they said, and he's the first baby. So there was the beginning of my athletic career. But that was just an aside. But I had the pleasure of being raised by my grandparents on Gadenby Street. Now, the uniqueness of Gadenby Street is for 2 blocks, there were 8 or 9 kids coming out of every household. And we all would converge on the hill of Goin and Gadenby. And that's where we had to come up with G Street because we had Goin and Gadenby. So we had to come up with G Street. And every day we would get challenged. You would have to prove it. You'd have to go through the gymnastics. And I was one of the little guys. All I wanted to do was play with the big guys. And they would check me every time. And it would burn a desire in my heart that one day, man, I'm going to get in here and I'm going to compete with these guys. I'm going to be able to do what these guys do. And they always would, don't pick Ray Ray, he's a crybaby. Don't pick Ray Ray, he's a crybaby. You hit him too hard, he's going to cry. So I would sit over there. Next thing you know, I'm crying. And they would just dive on me. And eventually, I got out there about 11, 12, and started delivering a little bit of juice. And all of a sudden, I got locked into a guy by the name of Gary Ladd. Now, Gary Ladd is probably one of the greatest high school athletes to ever come out of Oregon. 2-time first-team All-State at Jefferson. And fortunately for me, his girlfriend lived on Gattenby Street. So when the word came out that lad was up on the hill, there wasn't nowhere to be. And he took me under his wing. And this man guided me through all the days of my life. We lost him back in 16. He stayed my guide and my mentor every step along the way. I would not be here if Gary Ladd had not deposited the courage, the perseverance, the determination to keep going inside of me. If he had not channeled that, I can't tell you what the outcome would be, because there were many tragedies to overcome. Probably the greatest occurred when I was 5 years old. My mother had got remarried, and she married a gentleman who was in the Air Force. Now, in 1960, a black man in the Air Force as a captain, that's something real. That's some real stuff. And I love my mom to death, but she wouldn't know what to do with a guy like that if all the money in the world was on the table. So she did her thing. Her thing didn't fit with being an Air Force captain. But it's too late. We're down in Colorado Springs now. Me and my 3 sisters, my mom and my stepdad. I'm going to Washington Elementary School in the first half of my kindergarten year. I come home. It's December in Colorado Springs. Snow. Waist high. And a blizzard is predicted to be on the way. I come home, and my stepfather's clothes are all out in the street. I get to the house. Why did Daddy Stewart's clothes all out in the street? What's wrong? I ain't got time to talk to you about nothing. She was doing her sachet thing. And I'm just watching because I know something's finna jump off here, and I don't know. And I got these 3 little sisters here, and they go, brother. So I'm trying to get some information. She grabs her coat. She slams the door. We were alone in that house for 4 nights and 3 days, waiting for somebody. Little did we know that the state of Colorado was camped out on the corner, waiting to see if they could find somebody, because they had got a report about 3 kids in a house by themselves. 4, really, but my little sister was across the street. She was 18 months. On the 3rd night, and we understand that authorities were coming the next day to take us. We don't know anybody in Colorado. We don't have no family in Colorado. On the 3rd night, if I remember to the T, about 6:30, there was a knock on the door. I went and got a chair, and I put the chair in front of the door and looked out the peephole. And my grandmother was standing on the porch. I can tell you, gentlemen, to this day, that was the happiest day of my life, and it remains the happiest day of my life. She packed us up. We had to catch a train in the morning. We walk into a serious Colorado snow blizzard. We're walking in the middle of the streets because you cannot walk on the sidewalks. She has my 18-month-old sister in her arms. I have my 2 sisters in my hands, and one of them is holding her dress. And we are walking in the middle of the street early, pre-dawn, trying to get to the train station that's a good half a mile ahead, 2 or 3 blocks ahead. This blizzard is such you can't see nothing. It's just snow. Gentlemen, God is my witness. A car with an Asian man pulls up, and he rolls down the window and he screams, "Lady, where are you trying to go?" She's crying. Her voice is cracking. He heard train. He said, "Get in the car." He got us to the train station. We wasn't on that train 10 seconds before them wheels start moving. Now, my grandpa ain't got no money. My grandpa had to borrow the money to get her the ticket to get us to come down there. We got 2-day ride. Again, my grandmother's from Mississippi, so she didn't suffer white folks too well. But she didn't have no money and no means of feeding us. out of the blue, here comes a white woman. Hi, your children are so cute. They're so nice. Do you mind if I take them to get something to eat? Now, she from Mississippi. She ain't real confident about this release. She had no option. This white lady fed us breakfast, lunch, and dinner, and every time we ate, she sent something back for my grandmother for them whole 2 days. I wish I knew who it was and I could say something to her. But that was the beginning of my mindset. I knew I was responsible. I would have wagered that that's when I had to grow up, because I had to figure out how to take care of these sisters and how to figure my way out of this. And at 5 years old, you know, how much can you draw upon? So that moment there was a real catalyst. The next time I saw my mother, I was 8 years old. She was being thrown into the back of a police car in handcuffs of a major fight that had took place in front of my grandfather's house. The next time I saw my mother, I was 13. I went down to Damage Hospital in Wilsonville. It's not there now, but Damage was the mental hospital back in the day. I caught the bus, and I would go down to Damage and sit with my mother. True story. One Sunday, I went to see my mother, and she was very anxious, very angry, and I didn't know what upset her. And then I found out that my father had been placed upstairs on the other floor. And that's what her gymnastics were all about. That's why she couldn't really settle down or sit down and talk to him, and then because his presence. And he was isolated, so they wouldn't let me see him. He wouldn't have probably known who I was anyway at the time. But those moments created major traumatic obstacles to have to work through. So when I discovered basketball, that was the savior. I wanted to be a singer first, like my father. I didn't know him, but I knew he was a singer. First time I saw him, his group was performing at halftime of the Globetrotters 1962 performance at Memorial Coliseum. I'm up here in the stands. He's down there like a hand on the stage, and my mama said, "See, that's your daddy." That's my dad? Okay. Yeah, that's your dad singing. Okay. I didn't get to see him after the show or nothing. That was my first exposure. But I always had people around me that would provide me with the guidance and direction. And thus basketball gave me Gary Ladd, and then basketball gave me Jefferson High School. The opportunity to play basketball for Jeff was a lifelong dream through all my days at Boise. And at that time, we were one community, so you knew who was who at Elliott, who was who at Vernon, who was who at Sabin, who was who at Highland. You knew. You knew who the players was. Holiday and all of the players was coming to Jeff. So I'm scared to death. I go to work every day. I'm dribbling at night till midnight. I'm shooting 100 jumpers out because I'm going to go to Jeff. And these boys up here, if you ain't ready, you ain't going to play. So I went to work. Made the freshman team. I was pretty proud. JV team got a chance to lead a little bit. But my sophomore year, going into my junior year, I went to Seattle and spent the summer with Gary Ladd at Seattle U. So while they're down here in Portland playing at Peninsula and 3-on-3 at Jeff, I'm up in Seattle. I'm playing with Parmalat, Reggie Ball, Louis Nelson, Tommy Little, Lou West, all Americans. Everybody drafted. And you can't get on this court and be no crybaby. So I went to work. And by halfway through the summer, they were picking me on their teams. I was playing. I was winning. I came down. I played a summer league game up there against Garfield. They had supposedly the two best guards in the state. I ain't even played a minute of varsity. I gave Garfield 41. And they wanted to know, man, where you going? What school you go to? Where you play? Man, I played JV. You played what? I played JV. Well, fast forward. we come into our junior year. We're one of the best, but we're not a team. We're not that. And a couple of our guys, the ball never came back. If it got in their hands, it never came back. But you're stuck in this dynamic, so you had to play it out. We come into our senior year. Summer league. We tell the coach, no, you can't coach us. You retired for the summer. We coached us. We went undefeated in the summer. Came back during the school year. We knew we were going to win it. I called a team meeting, and I put it on blast. If you plan to do what you did last year, you might as well come on with it right now, because we ain't buying that. That ain't for sale no more. It's like this and like this. And if you can't do that, go find you someplace else to be, because we ain't having it. And everybody thought a fight was finna break out or what have you, but it wasn't that. It was just, man, I'm here to win this thing, man. And everybody signed on. Everybody signed on. Now, suffice it to say, the number one player in the nation is right across the street at Jefferson High School. Johnny Wooden's coming up to recruit him. He's in the stands. Sidney Wicks, Curtis Rowe, all of them, they in the stands because they want him at UCLA. Well, we wanted him too, because he beat us twice our junior year. Senior year, we're at Benson. We're down 4 with 1 minute and 6 seconds left. We call a timeout. And I make it clear, I am not going to lose this game. We go back out. Timeout again. Say, look, I'm going to take the ball. I'm dribbling right. I'm coming back to my left. I'm going to get it high on the glass. And you, I want y'all over the rim. That's exactly what happened. Threw it up, hit the board, the rim bounced, Ronnie Cole caught it, tipped it back in. Game over. Benson is beat at Benson. This community went crazy. You'd have thought we were the Blazers winning the NBA championship because we slayed the dragon. So the PIOs, they wasn't really appreciating that. So they scheduled the next game at the Coliseum. It's supposed to be our home game. It's supposed to be a Jeff home game. But they scheduled it at the Coliseum at 3:30 in the afternoon. Not 7 o'clock, as the usual time for the games. At 3:30 in the afternoon. 8,800 people showed up at 3:30 in the afternoon at the Coliseum, exactly what they was trying to prevent. 8,800 people showed up, and the Trailblazers had lined the court because they was watching the game too. And once again, we got them. And so there's a whole new thing going on now. Now the whole state is hating us. Everybody hates us because we're the first all-black team to ever win a championship in the state of Oregon. Ever. So we catch it. Now, in the neighborhood, it's starting to get real heavy. Starting to get heavy because now you're high profile. Wherever you are, whatever you do. And, you know, we weren't choir boys, need to say the least. But we did know we had this massive responsibility on us. And old folks is watching you, man. The old folks is watching you. So we knew that we had to walk this thing and walk it off with style and grace. And so we win the thing. Next thing we know, we had Geneva's. You're 18 years old. But we walking in and out of the nightclubs like we own it. These are the kind of things that never should have happened. But because we had made this achievement, there wasn't any place we weren't welcome. And we were doing grown it and grown, to the point to where we really missed out on some beautiful opportunities. We should have been at the schools. We should have been at the hospital. We should have been at the church. We should have been at the Boys and Girls Club. We should have been at every place there was some kids who wanted to be in touch with the Jefferson team. But we was chasing this, and we was chasing that, and we was doing this, and we was doing that. And then it was time to say goodbye. Now, I was not heavily recruited because we didn't have a coach who really knew how to get the word out. But I had a couple of teachers at Jefferson, Dr. Darrell Milner, who had played for a guy who was now the coach of San Diego State. Darrell called him, let him know about me. Next thing you know, they're in the gym at Jefferson. Obviously, because I'm so engaged in extracurricular activity, my grades were not acceptable on the D1 level. But San Diego State still wanted me, so they placed me in Arizona Western Junior College. Now, here's where it gets dicey. I got a fro as big as all outdoors, and I'm walking into Yuma, Arizona. Yuma, Arizona. Johnny Yuma, Arizona. The Yuma Dirt Flow Jail, Yuma, Arizona. And I had the nerve to go in there with a fro big as an umbrella. And I'm a Black Power baby. And it led me to some very difficult moments. We were in a field once, and we were trying to earn some money. Railroad station. And we thought we were going there to do some work on the trains. They bring out 4 or 5 sickles. You know, big sickles you cut wheat down with. They brought out 4 or 5. Are we supposed to cut this grass with these? Grass tall as we are. He said, yeah, that's what you're here for. I ain't doing that. You what? Well, then I suggest you better get on up here and get your way back to campus. I ain't walking back. I heard a This boy done grabbed a rifle. And all 4 of us stepped off of that property and began to walk the 14 miles back to the campus on the freeway. And when we made it, the story had beat us back to the campus. But it didn't say nothing about no shotgun. The story didn't have a shotgun in it. They didn't want to do any work. They didn't want to work. They didn't want to work. No. We didn't want to die. We didn't want to give you the lack of reason you needed to do what you got that shotgun to do. And so those kind of moments along the way shaped a mentality that I knew I had to fight for more than me. I knew I had to be about something greater than me. So when I get to San Diego State, I have a good run at San Diego State. We go to the attorney a couple times, but I'm doing my exit interview now. My eligibility is up. And they want to know, well, what are you going to do now? Well, I'm going back to Portland, Oregon. And I'm going to work on behalf of the young people who are just like me, looking for an opportunity to get out. I'm going back and work on behalf of the young people of my community. I said that at 22. 50 years later, here I am, doing the same thing I said I was going to do at 22. Before I left, I got a job. One of the alumni asked, well, what are you interested in doing? I said, well, real estate. I'd like to learn about real estate. He took me to meet the gentleman of University Financial. They were the largest developer of shopping centers in San Diego. Mission Valley, Fashion Valley, all those, they developed those. Gave me an internship. Now, this stuff was pretty heavy, way over my head. But I was struggling, trying to find my space in it. It didn't work. So I got a real estate license to do residential sales before I got my degree. So I was already trying to create an economy even before I got my degree. Eventually, I came back to Portland. I came back in 79. And while we were in high school, we were doing summer camps out of Peninsula and out of Jefferson. And then Maurice Lucas threw a basketball camp. And the way he did it, he set up classroom spaces. And we said, how we can replicate that? That was the beginning of the SCI summer basketball camps. And there wasn't a baller in the metro area who wasn't trying to get into those camps. We were passing out tennis shoes and T-shirts and awards and jackets and what have you, but it was a chance for the real ballers to get there. That was the beginning of SCI. That was the whole beginning. And we did that up until 88. Now, I left SCI and went to the Urban League of Portland. Worked under Herb Cawthorn as executive director. Herb got called and recruited by the Urban League of San Diego. We're talking. I don't know what his plan is. He tells me he's going to name me interim president. Now, if you ever seen a deer stuck in some headlights, then you was looking at me. You finna do what? Yes, I am. And he did it. That them board members, yeah, I would make, because they thought they should have been the person named into that role. Yeah, well, the board had a problem because they coveted, they wanted that role. And I'm much younger. I think I might have been 37, 38. But they thought that that role was more coveted by them. They had, I ultimately, and I was asked not to by Herb when he appointed me, but I filed for the candidacy for the permanent position. There was 50 candidates. It boiled down to two, myself and a gentleman by the name of Usini Perkins out of Chicago. Usini had gray hair. I didn't have gray hair. And Usini looked like he was the right guy. And for the board, he was the right guy. And he made it clear to me as now I'm reduced in my role as to director of development, that you're going to have to raise the money for your own salary. Say that to me again. You have to go raise the money for your salary. I said, okay, let me get back to you on that. He didn't know I was in discussion with the mayor's office already to secure a $100,000 grant to start Self Enhancement, Inc. So when I got back to him, I let him know, I don't think I'll be raising that money because I don't think I'm going to be here. Matter of fact, today is my last day. So I will be leaving because I have a 2:00 press conference to announce the formulation of Self Enhancement, Inc. And then the Urban League had to watch a fundraising machine that took the millions that they were looking for and ran them all in the SCI. I was talking with U.S. Bank. Ray, what do you think needs to happen? Because we're just tired of giving little bitty gifts here and there along the way. We need to you need to do a splash. You need to do $1 million gift. And you need to give it to us. I'm having lunch next week with the former president of U.S. Bank who cut us the $1 million check and, more importantly, signed on as the chairman of the capital campaign, Mr. Ed Jensen. When he left U.S. Bank, he became the president of Visa International. And we do this to this day. So the Urban League had to sit up and watch billions of dollars flow in the SCI. The Center for Self Enhancement, $10 million. Ford Foundation. They had to watch this while they over there struggling for money. Well, you had the guy. You had him. And you told him he had to go find his own money. Well, he found his own money, but it ain't yours. And Usini Perkins struggled until he left here. Never raising a dollar. But he was a great poet. He had that statesman presence. But these machines run off of cheese. And he didn't have to skip. And so him and these board members, they had to watch. They had to watch what they denied create a whole new avenue. And you can never really turn it into an adversarial thing because we right here. I mean, if I'm mad at you, your mama coached my little league team. I can't be too mad at you. I ate chicken at your table. I can't be too upset with you. I spent the night at your house. But y'all, you didn't do what other communities do. other communities take young talent like that and they surround them with expertise. And they guide them and they direct them and they coach them and they lead them into leadership with them beholding to the agenda. No, you just flipped me off and left me out there. Didn't stop to nurture me or develop me or help me figure out how to do it or assist me. They voted. The vote came in. There were 25 people on the Urban League board. The vote came in. It was 13-12. 13 black people and 12 white people. The 13 black people voted for Yusini Perkins. The 13 white people voted for Ray Leary. Yusini Perkins became the CEO and president of the Urban League of Portland. And that's okay. I see him to this day. Hey, Ray, how you doing? Hey, Ray, how you doing? Man, I do this over these years. I just don't have the ability to forget. I can forgive. But I don't have the capability of forgetting that I know who you are. And you showed me. But now you want to rub elbows, you want to touch shoulders because just that's Ray, that's my boy from back in the day. But okay. But when I became Mr. Leary, didn't meet the cut. It's okay. Understanding that, my game is just starting to develop because at SEI, I began to see the development of this possibility and began to push. And then there was the push back because everybody wasn't ready to grow. Everybody wasn't ready to go into the dark night. Matter of fact, I was told, this is your project. I ain't touching this. You the one made this happen. You got to do this. Okay? And then the 250Ks start rolling in, and the 300Ks start rolling in, and the 500,000 start rolling in, and the 250Ks start rolling. All of a sudden, I think I want to go to this meeting with you. Okay, man. Come on. I think I want to go to the construction meeting with you and oh, come on, man. Now, for 6 months, you didn't want to touch this. For 6 months, because you thought it was going to crash. You thought it was going to crash and burn. So you didn't want no parts of it. But then when you saw that the momentum was going and it was winning and you got tired of seeing Leary in the newspaper and Leary in the newspaper and Leary in the newspaper and Leary in the newspaper, so you figured out you better get in the game. So let me scoot over and get you a little room. Because what you don't know is I'm over here talking to Adidas. And Adidas is dangling stuff in front of me. And I know you're adverse to that because you're a Nike guy. So when the offer came from Adidas, yes, sir. And I became first city business manager of the city unit. And it was our job to go in and fight Nike in a short stick. And I was assigned Chicago, Atlanta, and New York to fight Nike. At the time, we are number 8 in the industry. In the footwear apparel industry, Adidas is number 8. When we finished, 6 years later, we number 2. And it came off the backs of black people. It came off the backs of black people. And let me tell you who my crew was. My Chicago crew was the 3-stripe posse out of Cabrini Greens. That was my street team. And we would do slam dunk contests at Tony's. We would do different sets at Grant Park. And because these were young Chicago indigenous brothers, everybody showed up. And all I was Uncle Ray. And I knew, don't go to Chicago, man, unless you got 3 boxes full. Unless you can send me with 4 or 5 boxes, man, I'm not going. Because I go take care of them. That's where I get the feedback from. Because they taken care of. And all they want to know is, you got more deer? You got, when you coming back? When you coming back? Glad to be back. In New York, I had a Puerto Rican crew. Because we work in East New York. And man, burned it up. Got down to Atlanta. started doing a little work with LaFace and some of their artists. And we're doing a retail show out at a store in Stone Mountain. I think it was famous, Stone Mountain. And LaFace comes at us because they're supposed to be our promo partner. We're on radio with them and all night. Well, we got this young kid that we want you to use. No. We want we want the big boys. Where's TLC? That's who we're looking for. No. This kid, his name is Usher Raymond. He's going to do good. Use him. Okay, man. Well, who's this other group? They're called Outcasts. They're just getting started. But you can use them too. All right, man. Come on, let's go. I don't know Jack from Jill. But there's Usher and Big Boy and Andre 3000 before they became Andre 3000. And he was Usher Raymond. He wasn't Usher. And I come home to my kids, and they got pictures signed in the whole nine, and they just think Dad is walking on water. But these are the kind of opportunities we created at Adidas. And we did it in behalf of maybe the greatest graphic designer to ever live. I don't know how familiar you are with the legacy of Peter Moore. That see them socks he got on? That logo? That's Peter Moore. That Nike swoosh? It's Peter Moore. Jumpman on Jordan? That's Peter Moore. Air Jordan? That's Peter Moore. He created all those logos. He is considered the emeritus when it comes to design. Well, he was a personal friend. I worked for him. And right now, we're negotiating with Adidas to create the Peter Moore Design Academy. And it's spreading across the country in his name and his honor. It also would be important to reference the biggest assignment we had at Adidas. Adidas had no retail stores, none. They had outlet stores, but there was no Nike towns. There was no major places where you could go get product. We created the first full-line retail store in the United States on MLK in Alberta. The first full-line retail store in the United States was started on MLK in Alberta. And an ironic point, that was my project. So as we had the year-end Christmas party, they employee of the year, so you figure you might be in the running. I mean, you done made this major monumental contribution to the brand, so you might be in the running. The young lady who came in and folded up our T-shirts and our merchandising got employee of the year. And she couldn't even look at me because she knew, first, you came into the store I created and merchandised. But your contribution was greater than that. And is that what I'm supposed to assume? So I didn't beat her up about it, but I jacked Peter up a few years later. Pete, how'd you do that, man? How the hell you let that happen, man? This girl came in and folded tennis shoes and T-shirts, and poof, we went from 0 to 60, man. You didn't have no retail. And now you got 23 stores across the country. 23 superstores, Adidas superstores across based on the MLK model. And we tried to get them when they talked about trying to relocate and move away. Hey, look, flip it, turn it into an outlet and compete with these guys 6 blocks down the way. Make them drive them 6 blocks up here to compare your prices with Nike's prices. Because we're all discount, all excess. They took it to the store and crammed it in there. But at the time, we had the store on MLK in Alberta. I'm looking across the street, and I see X-rated theater, car dealerships. I said, Let me see if I can talk some development talk with somebody. And messed around, and the RFP came out for the development of that corner. It's called Vanport Square. It's called Vanport Square for a reason. My grandfather, the man who saved my life, was unlettered. Couldn't read or write. 40 years down at the shipyard, cleaning tankers, the sludge out of tankers. Died at 63 from black lung, mesothelioma, whatever they call it. But that man would sit at the breakfast table. He was a man of few words, but if you mentioned Joe Louis, Jackie Robinson, or Vanport, he'd break out like a Cheshire cat. Vanport was the first time he ever got the key to his. He came up here from Mississippi, couldn't read or write. He loved Vanport with all of his heart. I said, if I get a chance, this is going to be a testament to his spirit. That's how it became Vanport Square. Now, I had to fight Mayor Katz about that. And I had to fight with my partner Gina about that because, well, you know, when you're rich in Vanport, you're going to drum up all of that old, you know, and everybody's going to be talking about the flood again. The truth needs to be told. So this is going to be Vanport Square, whether you like it or not. It's Vanport Square today. So they tried to get me some other ways. They stole the project from me. Where Cason's store is, we had Trader Joe's coming there. We had Trader Joe's on the hook. Who got us? The people who look like the people in this room. Again. Fast forward. They told us if we couldn't get this project done in 6 months, they was taking the contract. In 6 months, we had the contract booked, tenants, the whole nine, loans to build the TI out, and the development. We had the whole nine, and we had $10 million in new market tax credits, and we did that by ourselves, myself and Gina Woolley. We should have gotten the next 3 or 4 deals off of the good work we had produced. Phone never rang. Again. All their verbiage talked about what they wanted to do in terms of wealth creation and empowering black developers and owners. And here was a golden opportunity. And you didn't move on it. You didn't let it happen. But those are the kind of dynamics you always fight because we have a difficult time embracing the unknown. If it hasn't been done and they ain't doing it, then ain't no way on God's earth you can do it. You can't. Because I did. And truth be told, you could have. You could have. You didn't seek. You didn't seek information. You didn't seek relationships. You didn't seek connecting dots to where you can build a momentum that's so great it can't be denied. And those are the formulas that go into doing something unprecedented, something big. We had just been awarded. At the time, he had a concept called Points of Light. And we had just been chosen as one of 100 programs across the country that would be a point of light. So he and Bill Bennett fly out to Portland. We have a chance to meet with him out on the tarmac. Statuesque man, strong man, but I'm just not there for the elbow grease. I asked him a question. Mr. President, what is the single most important thing you've ever done in the building of your career? That man turned around at me and said, thank you notes. I said, thank you notes? He said, yes, handwritten thank you notes. So, okay. And what do you thank him for? For the opportunity to meet him, time spent with him. I said, oh, okay. So I heard that. 3 weeks later, What do you think showed up? A handwritten thank you letter from President Bush to me. I logged that. Man, I've been writing thank you letters 40 going north for the last 40 years. I mean, if you burp and it sound good, you might get, man, I really appreciated that, man. That really felt good, because I'm telling you, it is the key to the kingdom. It ain't a human being on the planet that don't want to be appreciated and acknowledged. And 30 seconds to write. It was a wonderful opportunity to meet you. I look forward to talking to you again. And then I'm going to ask you some questions, because the next time I'm going to see you. So how was the birthday party? What do you guys do on the anniversary? Because I am there to find out what makes you tick. I ain't there to convince you that I'm the second coming. No, I need to find out how you move, because it's your momentum that's going to help me move. So let's make this about you. I mean, and that has been the key to any development work, any work I have done. It's all relational, and it's connecting the dots. That's why I heard you. And it's seeking. That's why I heard you. That's the recipe. That's the recipe. The information is there. And most people like to work with people they like, people they enjoy. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to give you as many reasons as I can to embrace me by talking about you, by making you know that I know you the greatest. It ain't me, because I heard you. And then eventually they get around to saying, when did you get here? I already knew you from the day you hit the planet to the day your mama left, and you just getting around asking me about my world. But that's the key to it. It ain't about you, baby. It ain't about you. It's the other guy. And if you empower the other guy, guess what you got? A teammate. A teammate. But if you so mighty and you so high and you so all of that, and you look for somebody to follow, ain't nobody following that, man. Ain't nobody following that. Because you ain't passing out no credit. You eating all the credit. So in that way, Bush's feedback was really my secret weapon. I've been writing thank you notes. I can't tell you that email, that text, champion. I don't care what it was a pleasure being in your company. By the way, I agree when you say it. You got turn them on, man. You got 3 of them. Only 2 of them on your head, but you got 3 ears. Only got 2 eyes in your face, but you got 3 eyes. You can use them all. And if you reduce yourself, you will find out that people have a lot to be respected for. There's a lot of reasons to respect people. Everybody has a magnificent story. Are you interested enough to seek it out? Can you comprehend enough to connect the dots? Politics. If I had $1 for every time I was asked, when are you running for office? I'd need an economy. I'm not running for office. I will run for the border before I run for office, because my life is not at the mercy of anybody just because they voted for me. I don't want to be entertained with a bunch of foolishness just because I'm beholden to you. I prefer peace. I have grandchildren that I love and love me. I'm not interested in fighting and dancing with a bunch of people who are self-righteous and self-important to the point that their ambition is drowning out their common sense. Y'all keep that. I was told early on, it is better to own the judge than to be the judge. And who told me that? Aaron Brown Jr., the first black judge in the history of the state of Oregon. That's what he told me. Own the judge rather than be the judge. What does that mean? Have a relationship. Have a relationship. So every year he would host a major lunch of all the judges and the lawyers. Why am I being invited? Every year, I'm invited. And I mean, these are major legal players, heavyweights. What I'm doing in the room. Judge Brown wanted me in the room because he knew I was bringing 3 ears and 3 eyes to try to read between the lines and see what's really being said. But the idea of me running for elected office, the idea of me influencing elective office, yeah, all day long. But if you think that boils down to a functional role, closest that came to is I was a work commissioner with Metro for 20 years. I'm talking about billions of dollars. And black people ain't cashing in on none of this. So my agenda got set early on. We need to get some of this cheese. We need to get in this game over here at Metro. Metro's over here like a sleeping dog, but they running through a lot of money, man. Okay. So we launched all manner of initiatives. Brought Kara Stoudemire on. She's been chair now for 7, 8 years. I was the first African-American on the commission. So I had to wade through all of that. But the one thing they came to find out in the end, he don't play. And Metro had to respect that. Metro wasn't used to respecting that. And they had to respect that. And the calls would always come. When you go run for office? I'm not. Well, where am I headed later this week? Back down to the convention center to talk to the people that I worked with when I was at Metro to make this happen and make that happen. It's the agenda for me at this stage of the game is all about kids. Trying to get this generation lifted up to the point to where they can see a better future and a bigger future than we saw. They have possibilities. And they have tools that we didn't know nothing about. It's foreign to us. But what we have failed to do is to pass on the knowledge like what you guys are doing right now. That's why it's so important, this work you're doing, to pass on the historical knowledge, the local history, the history of people they saying hi to every day, but they don't know the story. Like you said, they don't know the story. So this is a tremendous power that you guys are amassing. Not only to educate, but to inspire people to try. Some of the stories you share with me, some of the feedback, I didn't know some of that stuff about some people I've been looking at for 40, 50 years. I didn't know, had no idea. But you live and learn. I'm just saying that this is the kind of work that does preserve legacies. And so I want to compliment both of you guys on the job that you're doing. And I wrap this up with a couple thoughts. First and foremost, and probably more than anything else, yeah, we have a black community. We have a black community as a diaspora. We aren't centrally located in one spot or segment, but we are spread across this metro area, which is a lot different than what it used to be. 25 years ago, it was landlocked. You could find 90% of us between 15th and Interstate, Broadway, and Lombard. You could find us. Well, now the diaspora has moved and spread, and it creates an interesting dynamic because there are new power players that you have no knowledge of, no working history of. And they're not from here. Many of them not from here. And when you're not from here, you got to work your butt off to figure out what's going on here, because you'll get a certain impression on first sight. But if you dig, you'll find similar dynamics that you found in every other place that you ever visited, but you got to dig in Portland. So being born and raised here, you recognize the family names, you recognize who went to where and what school and what have you, and it makes it a little easier to connect the dots because of historical background. But truth be told, our community has always been under siege. We've been under siege forever. You cannot have 5 displacements and not be and not have a sense of community. It's very difficult. See, we began down on the river, back behind the Coliseum. We began on the other side of the Broadway Bridge. Old Town was Black Town. Then it was Emmanuel. On and on and on and on. And Black people have been uprooted. So the idea of a resistance, we're hard pressed to really go to war and fight as they would in Chicago. For instance, the tenure of Harold Washington. Now, Portland could use a Harold Washington, but it wouldn't know what to do with Harold Washington. It wouldn't know what to do with power. See, our challenge is we are not accustomed to power, the exercise of power. We are committed to accommodation. We will accommodate, but I won't stand on you. And see, that's changing. That's changing. That's changing. These young people, they stand it, and they bark. And there's a few of us barking out here too. But most of the time, we are willing to go along to get along instead of start the 5-alarm fire. Because we have been comfortable. You got a front yard and a backyard. You got a car. You got neighbors who look like you, and your cousin live around the way. So why are you going to upset heaven? This is heaven on earth. Yes, sir. Yes, sir, man. Yeah, yes, sir. Yes, sir. No problem. We lived through that, man. We watched our parents go through that. We lived through that. And I'm so pleased to know that young people today, they ain't doing that. They ain't bowing down. They ain't kowtowing to that. They are deciding to do what ain't never been done before. I'm telling you, there is a window of opportunity blowing through this town that the world ain't picked up on yet. But the vibration coming through here, within the next 5 years, this place is going to blow up. It's going to blow up again. It's going to blow up big. And it's going to blow up like it never blew up before. And y'all want to be right in the middle of that. You want to be right in the middle of that. And this kind of work, it will position you for them to find you. See, when they got to look for you, the negotiating leverage is yours. But if you got to take your hat and tap dance and knock on the door, they too good. They're happy to tell you no. They're happy to tell you no. We already gave to your crew, that crew over there. But if you go in there leveraged, they're going to have to talk to you. And again, that part is politics. It is clear. It ain't how you start. It's how you finish. Another critical quote for me in my adult life, 6 months out the year, I mind my own business. The other 6 months, I leave the affairs of other people alone. So in other words, I got to focus on this and this only. Your business ain't none of my business. And I know to keep fighting because it ain't over. It ain't over by a long shot. One thing I will say in closing, I am committed to spiritual life, which ain't got a damn thing to do with religion. And I believe that the principles guiding us have always been here. They got convoluted in writings, and the principle and the meaning was lost. But the recovery is on. The recovery is on. The truth is resurging itself in a way that's going to knock all of these falsehoods out the way, because truth be told, it was you. It was you. You were in Egypt. You were in Mexico. It was you. It was you. You know, a friend of mine asked me that question about a tombstone. He said, what do you want on that tombstone? And I meditated on it for a while. And it came back to me as this. He gave.
Thanks for tuning in to Oregon Hidden Legacy. For more information about this podcast, go to OregonHiddenLegacy.org.